Okay, guys, I'm going to talk about getting up in the morning. And, a lot of people want to get up early in the morning, but just generally, you know, there's. You want to be able to get up out of bed reliably when, when you need to. And this is something that I've found very difficult, and it's only in the past, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, I guess, that I've really been able to combat it somewhat. So I'm going to talk about my way of going about it, because I think a lot of people who talk about this stuff, they're not really the kind of people who necessarily struggle from it. So like Hamza Ahmed, um, I like his videos a lot, but I don't know. I think there's a sort of struggle I've had with sleep that I don't think he's necessarily had, and that's no criticism to him because I've taken a lot of his advice about getting good sleep and stuff. But I think it's the same with Matt Walker as well. I think a lot of the people who are giving advice on sleep are naturally good at it, and so the kind of advice they give is not really practical, not really usable for for other people who don't find it so easy. So I'm kind of talking a bit about sleep as well as getting up because I think the two are really interlinked. So for me, on the other hand, I found it very difficult to get up in the mornings. I'm the kind of guys very late bedtimes, very late time getting up. So I'm just going to talk a bit about it here. So I guess the first thing to say right off the bat, which I've already said, is that sleep and getting up are related. So for a long while, I thought that getting up in itself was just a skill. So no matter how well you were sleeping, so I'd go to bed at like 2 in the morning after going out with some friends. Going out drinking and stuff, and then still expect myself to wake up at 8:30 in the morning and catch the last bus to university for a lecture, and just sit through that lecture hungover. And I thought the only thing that mattered was just me being able to get myself out of bed in that moment. But the way I think of it now increasingly is that it's actually a much more holistic approach. Because I got very disappointed with myself when I'd failed to get up on time for a lecture, let's say, if I'd been out the night before. Sometimes I would, sometimes the alarm would go off and I'd just think, fuck, I've got to go right now, grab everything and go. But sometimes I'd just wake up and think, oh, I can't be fucked for this, and just leave it. And then I'd wake up later and be like, oh, I'm such an undisciplined guy. Why didn't I get myself out of bed? And yes, there's a degree of that, but I think you need to set yourself up for success with getting out of bed. Really. It's a difficult thing. So the way to do that is to make sure you're sleeping sufficiently, so that when you wake up, when your alarm clock goes off, whenever it does, you feel like, you'll still feel tired, obviously, because being woken up by an alarm clock is not very nice. But in the back of your head, you'll know that you'll get up hit your alarm clock, go have a shower, and then you'll feel better. Conversely, the reason why I wasn't getting out of bed a lot of the time was because I knew I'd wake up and I'd feel, even though I had something to do, after that I'd feel like shit because I hadn't slept well the night before. You know, I'd been out drinking, or even if I hadn't, like I just stayed up stupidly late. And this is slightly contrary to what I've heard, to be honest, about sleep. So what a lot of people will say about sleep is, like, obviously have regular bedtimes. But they will say to prioritise the waking up time, which sounds very attractive in one sense because it means you can stay up late and still wake up at the same time. As long as you wake up at the same time, I mean. Sorry. So, and that's kind of the approach I took for a lot of university, was to just focus on the time I had to wake up. And, you know, it gets 2 o'clock and be like, oh, I'll wake up anyway at 8 o'clock anyway. And then sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. But I wasn't getting good enough sleep, you know, like I was under 8 hours of sleep is going to make you feel like shit. So yeah, I took more of an approach of thinking it's not about just gritting my teeth and getting up. There's an extent to which that is the case, but more important is just getting yourself prepared well. So I think if there's anything you should prioritise as in terms of improving your sleep, it's not the time you wake up, but the time you go to bed. So yeah, and the reason I say that is because it just sets a positive. Well, it's the next point really. It's what I'm going to get onto now. Is you got to set a positive chain of events. So, for example, you want to set up for you getting up early in the morning as early on in the day as possible. So there's the immediate thing you do, which we've already talked about, which is go to bed so that you get enough sleep before you wake up. So you get 8 hours sleep. So let's say you've got to wake up at 8, go to bed at midnight. But altogether with that is the stuff you do before midnight when you go to bed. So that is stuff like having a sort of wind down routine. So for me, I generally find I need 2 hours to go to bed, to sort of wind down before I go to bed. And that's not me, like, I don't really use those 2 hours to wind down, you know, like stretch, meditate, or whatever it is. But it's kind of watershed for me to get myself ready to go to bed. So like how a plane, you know, it doesn't just go straight down on the ground straight away. Similarly, I think you can't just expect yourself to hop straight into bed immediately. You need a sort of runway, and that's what this 2 hour watershed for me does. So, for example, let's say you're going, you know, you think, oh, it's 10 o'clock, right, stop everything, let's put on a podcast, do some stretching, and then you go into your room, and then you think, oh, fuck, I need to do this. You suddenly remember you've got something to do tomorrow. Like you need to pack your bag and you forgot to do that, or you need to wash some clothes. Then you still got a 2 hour watershed to get all those things done. So go and compare that to you just going about your day until 12 o'clock, and it's like, right, it's time to go to bed. And you hit 12 o'clock and suddenly you're like, oh fuck, I've got to pack my bag, I've got to wash my clothes. Then you end up doing that for half an hour, and then it's by that point, it's getting on for quarter 2, 1, and then he fucks it. You're compromising your sleep, and that's really annoying. So people also say that for a kind of what it's just good for your brain to wind down as well, and I think it is, but I think the real thing is it just gives you enough of a chance. You're giving yourself an actual decent chance of getting to bed at that time. So there's that, but then there's other things in the day that you can do. So having a cold shower right before you go to bed is a good one for me. This is rather contrary to advice I've been told. I've been told that a hot shower is the thing to have because it lowers your body temperature, and that is true. But if it's someone like me, who gets really sort of what's the words? Like active right before you go to bed. If you're one of those people who it hits 11 and you're like, fuck, I've got to conquer the world right now. Having a cold shower can really just quieten you down, and the reason for that is because it increases a cold shower. Basically, my biology might be a bit off here, but my understanding of it is that cortisol is what's making your brain do that. It's like a sort of stress hormone, and so what you want to do is you want to get rid of that cortisol basically, and the way you can get rid of cortisol in your body that's sort of left over late at night is have a cold shower, which releases adrenaline, and adrenaline cancels out cortisol somehow. So you don't get me wrong, you feel very awake for a good 20 minutes afterwards, but following that 20 minutes, you just feel really ready to go to sleep. So the sound's a bit off here, but that kind of is how it feels. And when I'm reluctant to have a cold shower before I go to bed, I just imagine that I'm washing off. I imagine myself sort of covered in cortisol, like kind of mud, and the hot shower the mud's not soluble in hot water, but then I turn, it doesn't dissolve in the hot water, but then I turn the cold shower on, and the mud just washes off. So that's something that's helped me. So there's other things. Well, the other big thing is just to actually improve your sleep. So, which goes back to what I'm saying earlier, because if you get a good night's sleep, then you'll see waking up as a positive thing. You'll think, oh, it's a bit painful right now, but once I hit that alarm and have a shower, I'll be fine. Against oh fuck, I've had 4 hours sleep, and it's gonna be so painful to click that alarm, but it's not gonna be over there. I'm gonna feel tired for the rest of the day. So if you get good quality sleep, then that's great. So one way to do that is to meditate, because a big reason why you might struggle to sleep, why you're restless, is because you're too in your head, and you need to separate yourself from your thoughts. So yeah, meditation. There are many ways you can do it. You can download an app. I started using an app. To be honest, I don't think you necessarily need to. For a long while, I've just sat, I had my eyes closed, and just have a natural breathing pattern that I try and focus on, and then when I'm not focusing on that, I realise and go back to it. So do whatever works for you. Experiment with some apps. Medito is completely free, which is an app that I use. I'm not sponsored by them, but no. Yeah, meditation gets you out of your head, and yeah. So that's basically it. What I'm trying to provide here is just an alternative to the approach that I had for a long while, which was just man up and get up no matter what. not to say that you don't need a bit of gritting your hooves into the mud when you really don't want to get out of bed. 100%. But you need more than that. You need a structure you need a framework of practical things you can do to best optimize getting out of bed in the morning. Which goes for all self-help things, I think. I've got a video coming out about Andrew Tate, who, while I respect him in a lot of ways, I think it's no surprise he's so successful, so popular. I think it's like a good message to tell men to be ambitious and work hard. But at the same time, this sort of practice, he doesn't actually give very practical advice as to how to do that. In the way that a lot of self-help is all about practical advice. It's kind of a given that you're gonna grit your heels in when you need to. You can't just magically click your fingers and and lift, 4 plates at the gym of 20 kilos. You've got to build it up over time. You've got to plan and think effectively about how you're going to do that. So, yeah. And another thing I wanted to provide an alternative for is just people who say stuff like, just close your eyes and count to 10, and then when you hit 10, just jump out of bed. I find a lot of girls who are really academically gifted, and they always say that to me. I don't know why that's just an observation I made. It just I don't know. It doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for girls and doesn't work for guys. I don't know. But I don't know. I just find that kind of advice a bit annoying. And then people who are like, "Oh, play your favourite song when you wake up because that's gonna get you gassed." It's like, no, it's not, mate. I don't care how good the song is. If I've woken up, having not gone to bed 5 hours before, I don't care what fucking song's playing. I'm just gonna turn it off. I can listen to it when I've got, when I wake up if I want to. So yeah, I know I find a lot of that advice a bit silly. So I wanted to provide a better alternative for it. So it's been a bit of a long video, and again, I think I haven't structured this as well as I might have liked to. But you're still here, so I hope it's been of some use.